Don Fischer. Charlie Miller will be joining us shortly, but Don's with us now. Don, how are you, sir?
I'm as well as I can be.
Yeah, I can imagine. Going back to this weekend, unfortunately, Indiana had another opportunity, golden opportunity, to knock off a top 10 team and just cannot get over the hump, Don. And, of course, we've got to start with the offensive line, I'm sure.
Well, let's face facts here, and I've talked about this ad nauseum this year. The question on Indiana's football team offensively is the offensive line. Again on Saturday, they did not get the job done. They couldn't run the football at all. The only way they could run it is if it was a scramble from Jack Tuttle. Stephen Carr had no holes to run through. The passing game suffered on Saturday as well because they couldn't block Michigan State well enough to give Jack Tuttle much passing time, much time to throw the football. We had a drop or two again by the receiving corps, but it was the offensive line and their inability to block anybody that kept Indiana from winning this football game on Saturday. And I will grant you that Jack Tuttle threw 2 interceptions. He didn't play his best football, but he was under pressure the entire day. There was simply not enough time to throw it, and they couldn't open a hole to run it. Therefore, you get beat 20-15 on a day when your defense again carries the load.
Yeah, it's watching that game. It just, I hate you feel so much for the defense because they're not just doing a good job, they're doing a tremendous job. And in any other scenario, just a semi-average offense, they beat both Cincinnati and Michigan State, both top 10 teams. Because I think that they're defensively, they're better than both of those teams, obviously. And to just be missing that one little piece, but man, that's gigantic. And I said before this week or last week, that's not a must win, but it was really close. Now, from now on, they're all must wins for these teams to get to bowl eligibility.
Yeah, I mean, let's face facts here. This football team has something to fix, and I don't know if it's fixable. And again, I'm talking about the offensive line. It's I can't quite figure it out either, primarily because you only really lost one starter from a year ago in Harry Kreider. Everybody else on this offensive line that's starting right now played last year, either as a starter or a guy that came off the bench and played lots of snaps. So where's the problem? Why hasn't this team or this offensive line gotten better rather than have gotten worse? And again, I can't answer that question. Is it coaching? Is it the lack of, is it a team? What was last year's team a total anomaly in the sense of being able to win football games and being able to score points? I don't know what the answer is, and I don't know where the problems lie totally. Obviously, there's a lot of people that are upset with the play calling. Nick Sheridan's getting his share of comments now negatively as the offensive coordinator. I don't know if that's the issue.
I was going to say, I agree with you.
It's the execution of the offense, and the offense cannot perform if they don't have time or holes to run through. It's just that simple. And I don't know where else we can look because the defense has done everything you could expect of them. The only thing that they haven't done a great deal of, like they did a year ago, was force a lot of turnovers and that type of thing. But the defense is holding up. They've stopped a lot of the big plays that other teams last year were able to get against Indiana, so they've held up in that regard. The defense is playing terrific. I mean, Micah McFadden is just an animal out there, a beast. I mean, he is so hard to contain, and he is so quick to the football. Cam Jones the same way. The defensive line is playing better than they have in several years, in my opinion. They're forcing other quarterbacks to not have as much time to throw the football, and they're definitely stopping the run game for other teams at this point. So you're getting everything you need from one side of the football and pretty much nothing of what you need from the other side. And right now, that's killing this football team.
Hey, Charlie Miller joining us. I absolutely agree, Don, because when people start talking about play calling, I'm like, you know what? If the plays were working, no one would be complaining. And the reason they're not working is because of the offensive line not making them work. So I agree with you. I don't think it's necessarily the play calling. I mean, there may have been a couple times, but there's always going to be a couple times where you're going to wish that call was back because it was bad. But overall, I agree. I don't know how you fix a problem where you have Indiana had 16 returning starters overall. I think 9 of them were on offense. Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned, most of those were on the O-line. And I don't know how they have gotten – in the beginning of the game, it seemed like they were getting some holes open for Stephen Carr. But then it just closed. Either Michigan State made some great adjustments or the O-line just folded and just could not hold up through fatigue or whatever it is, but not getting the job done. And I don't know how you beat anyone. You've got Purdue that just beat an Iowa team in Iowa. So it's looking very scary. Now we have Ohio State coming in. So, man, they've got a lot of things to fix in a hurry.
Well, let's let Charlie fix it for us. Charlie, you're a basketball guy, but obviously, football stuff that we're talking about hasn't worked. So maybe, Charlie, you could bring in some basketball philosophy here that can turn things around for this football team.
He is the Zen master.
Well, I tell you what, I always think about you, Don, and I'm serious. Like, I feel sorry for you, man. Like I don't even have empathy for Don. I feel sorry for you because it's been about 20 plus years of suffering, man.
Yeah,
I can only imagine what you go through from Monday through Friday. And when you see those plays happen, here we go again. You do your best at painting that picture in an optimistic way. But
let me tell you something, Charlie. I missed calling a field goal properly in Saturday's ball game because I was wishing it in through the uprights, and it didn't get it.
And I get it. And that's the the silver lining I have is just more so over the history of what we've done football-wise. There's been a lot of individual pieces that have represented well in the NFL. Defensively, we're talking about defense. I mean, you go out of Wale, back in the 90s.
Yeah.
You've had a lot of players. Can't think of his name. He played cornerback for a while for the Detroit Lions. But nevertheless, offensively, you just can't score points. We can't score. And that's a big deal when you're scrambling. Jack Tuttle has played 3 games, started 3 games. Not enough body of work. Not enough body of work. I don't care who you are.
Right.
It's just not enough body of work. That's going to take time. But you don't have the time because we're not in the business of college athletes as moral victories. I think that was 2 years ago, especially last year during the COVID season.
Right.
Who knows what was going on with other programs? I mean, you might have taken advantage of some things, but moral victories won't work now at this level. It's kind of tough. So you got to figure something out offensively. Because you dominate. First of all, I look at time of possession. You dominate it. First downs, you dominate it. You dominate every category except we can't score the turnovers. That's because the quarterback's running for his life.
Right.
And then, Don, there's when the quarterbacks are able to get some good throws out, we've seen so many drops this year. Right. Ty Freifogel and guys like it. Now they lose DJ Matthews. That's been a tremendous hit and probably more so than anyone expected it to be. But yeah, you've got that. But Ty Freifogel, I don't want to just point him out, but there's been too many drops, balls that should have been caught.
Well, Freifogel had another drop or 2. You could argue that he had 2 drops in this ball game. And Ty last year was the receiver of the year in the Big Ten. But he has really struggled this year. And here's the other aspect. There's no separation. These receivers have not created separation hardly at all this year. So speed is a factor there with the receiving core. The one thing that I would argue that you could criticize the offensive coordinator for is we don't throw to the tight ends enough. I think, and we talk about A.J. Barner, they talk about him all the time being just a tremendous athlete, a guy that can do crazy things. They don't ever throw it to him. I mean, he hardly played Saturday. Why he was not in the ball game some. Peyton Hendershot is probably your most reliable receiver that you've had on the field this year. And he's a big, strong kid, and he can make plays after he catches the football. And we're not going to him nearly as much as I think we need to. I don't see screen passes very often. I mean, there's just some things that we just don't do offensively that to the untrained eye, and trust me, I'm not an X and O guy, so I'm not sitting here saying that there may be a reason why we don't throw screens a little bit more, why we don't go to the tight end more. I don't know what those answers are. All I can tell you is what I see. And what I see right now is an offensive line that's not blocking well enough, not protecting the quarterback well enough, that's putting way too much pressure, especially on Jack Tuttle, who hasn't had, as Charlie points out, that much opportunity to hone his game as a starter. At this point, I don't see anything that's going to help this football team on the offensive side of the ball unless they change something, and I don't know what that would be.
You know, I want to say this real quick.
Go ahead, Charlie.
If you don't mind, like you. So that's another key point that I didn't think about when I was speaking. I'm almost certain. I mean, again, I'm not a trainer either in football, but I'm almost certain routes are ran differently when you're not getting that ball consistently. There's a little letdown personally when you're not touching that ball, and it's almost like I'm running this route as hard as I can. So I'm not questioning the heart. But you can almost wonder, it's okay. Hey man, take their heart from the jump. They're not going to run the routes clean. They're not going to be sharp. We're going to pressure. We're going to put 8 in the box. We're not going to. So it's like now you got the offensive line not playing well. That might also be a factor. How the referee, all the wide receivers creating separation because they're not getting the basketball, the football consistently.
Yeah, I agree. I forgot what I was going to say, but go ahead, Don. You got a point.
Well, look, I don't know that we can fix this. That's the biggest issue. And now you're playing another top 10 team at Ohio State Saturday.
Yeah. Wow.
You've got Michigan coming up, another top 10 team in a couple of weeks after that. You got Maryland and Rutgers, both improved football teams. They've been taking their lumps here of late as well, but there are two winnable football games. And now you got a Purdue team that just knocked off the Iowa Hawkeyes, the number 2 team in the country, with a tremendous defensive show in that ball game. They played the kind of defense that Indiana
in Iowa City, no less.
Yeah, and did it in Iowa City. But here's the other thing. I mean, I don't care what Purdue does the rest of the year, but if you got David Bell on your roster, you've got something special. And that kid is just absolutely a tremendous football player. He is the heart and soul of that Purdue football team on the offensive side of the ball. I don't care where you throw it to him, he's got a chance to make a play with it. And he's done that since he's been there. He's a junior this year. He's got to go to the NFL, doesn't he? I mean, I hope he goes to the NFL because he's been tremendous. But long story short, Indiana's schedule is so difficult. It doesn't matter who they play. Yes, and you're getting to the point of the season after 6 games. You're halfway through and you're 2-4. The heart of this team is now a question mark. Can this team continue to be to live up to the culture that Tom Allen has built there with the LEO and the love each other, that kind of thing? Is there doubt in these kids' minds? You got a bunch of transfer portal guys that came in. They were expecting to be a part of something special here. Where are they at now mentally? All of these things play into what we're looking at with this Indiana football team at this point. And I'm afraid that this program's in a little trouble at this juncture. Can they turn it around? They have an opportunity, but they're going to have to start playing a great deal better on the offensive side of the ball to have any chance to do so.
I agree wholeheartedly. And so we don't just have a bad conversation all day. You've got basketball's not quite here, Don, but have you been to any practices or been anything like that?
Yep, I've been to practice a week here in the last 2 or 3 weeks now. I've seen him practice for about 2 hours in each of those scenarios. I've been very impressed with Mike Woodson. Mike has done a terrific job of getting these kids to buy into what he's teaching. Right now, I think there's a lot of emphasis on the offensive side, learning the offense that Mike wants to play. I've heard Rob Finney and guys like that talk about they feel like They feel like there's more opportunity in this offense that Mike is installing to do more things, giving them more freedom to do things. It's going to be very interesting to watch this basketball team progress this year and see how they handle adversity, see how they deal with the positiveness that has been ongoing for this team, because since Mike has come, there's been nothing but positive things said. They're going to have some adversity at some point down the road. We'll see how they handle that and see how Mike handles it from a coaching perspective. All of this is going to be new this year. They'll have their bumps. They're going to have bumps in the road like everybody does. They're going to lose a game or two that they should have won. They're going to have opportunities to knock off some people, and I think they're going to be capable of doing that. The talent is good. I don't know if it's great. I do think the talent is better than it was a year ago with the transfer portal and Tramar Bates, a true freshman that's come in. I think this kid's going to be special. They've been dealing with a lot of injuries, though, a lot of sprained ankles and that type of thing. So you haven't seen everybody at the same time practicing. Trey Galloway's been dealing with an issue. I saw Christian Lander's been dealing with an issue.
Yeah,
Jordan Geronimo had an ankle issue at one point. They've had all different kinds of not bad injuries, just injuries that haven't allowed guys to practice as much or to be a part of practice as much as they would like. And the big 7-footer from South Florida, Michael Durer, I think if he can get healthy, and he's not really been healthy much of this early part of the practice sessions, if he can get healthy, he's really going to help this team because he is more athletic than I anticipated him being. He's got a great attitude. He's strong. So he's got a chance to be a special player. And he's got 2 years of eligibility with this program. So I'm really excited about him being a part of this team. And, of course, Miller Kopp can shoot it. Parker Stewart can shoot it. So they've added shooters to their team as well. It's going to be interesting.
Going to look forward to it. Also back again this week at Southern Stone on Wednesday, or Southern Stone Restaurant Wednesday night for the coaches show.
Yep, it'll be interesting to hear Tom talk about this past week because honestly, there was his post-game press conference was interesting to say the least. He was not a happy camper on Saturday, as you would expect. And I think he anticipated that this would be a much better performance by the offense than it was. So I'm going to be interested to hear what he's got to say and how things are going to change. We'll find out some of that here today at the press conference.